Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent and the most merciful. Welcome you all again in the virtual learning system of Pakistan International School, Taif, Saudi Arabia. Dear students, as you know that this is Pakistan International School, Taif virtual class for class second year students, subject computer science, and today is our 53rd lecture. Teacher name Imran Ahmed. Dear students, as you know that we have already completed the chapter number 6, which was belonging to the functions. Chapter number 7 is pointer, and this chapter is excluded from your course by the federal board. That's why we are not studying the chapter number 7, pointers. Next chapter is our last chapter, which is very, very important in terms of C++, because till now the topic which you have studied, they were belongs to the C language. Although we were using the syntax of C++ language, now over here C cannot support the objects and the classes, but C++ only support the classes and objects. So I can say that with the help of this chapter, I can say that C and C++ are the difference. They are different to each other. So chapter 8 is classes and objects. In order to understand the classes and the object, this chapter belongs to the real world solutions, real world topics. So in order to understand what is class, what is object, I will tell you the simple definitions and I will tell you the simple solution for the objects. Now, what is an object? Before starting the chapter number 8, we will discuss the what is object. The simple definition of object is, in real world, existence of anything in the world is known as object. For example, laptop is an object, I am object, you are an object, chair is an object. So each and everything which have existence is known as entity or object. Entity in terms of databases, in terms of C++, we called it one is object. So as I told you, I am object, you are object. Each and everything which have the existence is known as the object. For example, a car, cycle, motorcycle. So these are the objects. Now, each and every object belongs to corresponding class. Each and every object belongs to some classes. For example, I told you I am object, you are object, so we belongs to human class. So we belongs to the human class. Similarly, I tell you the some other name, let's say cycle, motorcycle, car, jeep, truck. So these are the objects, and these objects are belongs to the which class? Vehicle class. These objects are belongs to the vehicle class. So over here we have derived that object is the entity or existence of anything is known as object, and the class is the combination of different objects is known as the combination of the similar objects is known as class. So in this chapter we will discuss the classes and the objects, and we will try to solve the real world problems. First question, short question, I checked all the exercises belongs to the whole chapter. So one by one, we will explain all of these things. Explain the term object and class with example. Now, first of all, we will explain what is object and then we will explain what is class. So one by one, we will explain all of these things. First, I will explain the object. Object or the instance of a class. Object is the instance of a class which holds the data variable declared in the class. Instance of a class means it is a part of the class. So, which holds the data variable declared in the class. In other words, a variable of type class is called object. A variable of type class. Inside the classes we define the, as I told you, if I make the class vehicle, so I make the objects like cycle, motorcycle, so different those things which having the vehicle, which are running with the vehicle, is known as the object. Object is a great importance in the object oriented programming. Object having the great importance in the OOP means object oriented programming, because a class cannot be used without creating its object. So if I use make the class, so without a class there is no object, it is totally belongs, so you can say that there is no concept if you have the class but there is no object. If there is object there must be class, if there is class there must be some objects. So general syntax to define with the class, general structure to define the object name. First of all, class name, then the name of the object. First of all, class name, then the name of the object. Over here in the example we have defined C rectangle. C rectangle means class rectangle, you can say that, but this one is the class name. I will use this class name, so you can assign any class name, it depends upon you, it is a valid identifier. But this C rectangle having the three objects which are R1, R2, R3. So these are known as the objects. These are known as the object, and C rectangle is known as the class. Keep in mind, in the declaration of simple variable, which we was using like this one, int x n1 or n1, n2, n3. So n1, n2, and 3 was the three variables. N1, N2, N3 are the three variable which having the data types of type integer. So I told you in the previous topics, in the previous lectures, that the integer, float, character, double, long, and all of these are the data types. So data types are the, you can say that, built-in classes name. Built-in, they are built-in. Now, instead of integer, instead of float, instead of character, I make my own data type, and this data type is the name of the class. Watch here, like this one, C rectangle is the name of the class. So R1 is belong to the C rectangle, R2 is also belongs to the rectangle, R3 also belongs to the rectangle class. So these three are the R1, R2, and R3 are the objects of the class. Which one? C rectangle. So this is the simple example. I will solve the example with the programming help, but for the definition, first of all, the definition of the object. Now I will explain the definition of the class. Class. The classes are the most important feature of C++ that leads to the object-oriented programming. That leads to the object. I told you before starting of my lecture that only with the help of this chapter, chapter number 8, object and classes, it differentiate from the C language. Because C language cannot support the object and classes, only C++ can support the objects and the classes. Now class is a user defined data type. Watch here. Class is a user defined data type. As I told you, built-in data type was integer, float, character, double, long int, short int, unsigned. So these are the built-in data type. And the class name should be user defined data type, as we explain in the, as I tell you in the object topic. So which holds its own data members. Data members means in the C language or C++, when you define int n1, n2, n3. So n1, n2, n3 are the data members of type integer. Now in the class, if I define any class and it's having the own data member, for example, I give you the example in the object definition. Their class name was excuse me, class name was C rectangle and its data members are the objects were R1, R2, R3 and member functions. So each and every class belongs to the two major important thing. One is data members and other one is the member functions. So each and every class has the member function, data member and the member function. We will explain what is data member and what are the data member functions. The variable inside class definition are called the variables inside the class definitions are called the data members. What is data member? The variable inside the class. For example, there are members will be used inside the class. So let's say x1, y1 or z1, whatever you will use inside the class. So these variable names inside the class will be called data members. So although the definition is same for the variable and the data member. And the functions are called the member function. If I use, watch here, this is the class general, I will explain the general form. Inside the class, if I use any variable, they will be called the data member. And if I use any function inside the class, they will call the member function. So functions already you have studied in the previous chapter, chapter number 6, and the members are throughout of the C++ programming, you are already studying the variables. So over here, the terminology is just changed, the definition is same, the usage is same. At the previous programming, we call them variables, but now over here, although they are the variable, but they will be called the data members. The variable inside the class definitions are called the data members and the functions are called the member function. A class consists of both attributes of real world objects and the function. So class property, keep in mind each and every object, there must be two things are attached with the each and every object. One is characteristics or the properties and another one is the function. I will tell you what is the characteristics like data members and the functions in the real world. What is the real world? I told you that I am an object, you are an object, and we are belongs to the human class. Now each and every object contains the two things. One is characteristics or properties and another one are the functions. So properties, let's say I am an object. What are my property? My name is my property. My color, my complexion, these are my property. And what can I do? What can I do? These are my functions. So your name is your property. And what can you do? These are your function. So each and every objects belongs to a class and each and every objects containing the two things. One is properties or characteristics and another one is the function. So a class consists of both attributes. Attributes means properties or the real world objects are and the functions. So two things must be attached with the each and every object, attributes and the function. General form, how can we define a class in our program? So first of all, we will use the reserved word class, then the name of the class. Any name, just like C rectangle, like C rectangle is a class. Opening of a class, like the main function you open, but over here you will use the curly brackets or the braces to open the class. Now over here, access specifier. Access specifier is the separate topic. Just for the general format, I will tell you access specifier are three kinds: public, private and the protected. So we will define the further. So body of the class, this is the body of the class. So after the this one, in the access specifier you will define the member function members. In access specifier, for example, first one is public members are, second is private members are, up to so on. How many access specifier you will be used, you will use the member also. So this is the closing of the class, and after the closing you will must assign the semicolon. So this is the general form how to use the class in your form. Here Class name is valid identifier. Class name, this one is the class name, is valid identifier means the rules for the variables. Which one the rules for the variable you will use. The body of the class consists of, inside the body of the class, watch here, inside the body, which things I have used, data members we use, and the member function we can use. Inside identify, the body of the class consists of data members. It means that its characteristics or the variables are there, and the member functions, and which function we will use. Data members and the member function are used within the access specifier. These two things, data members and the member function, we will use within access specifiers. The name is access specifier, and the access specifiers are of three types. First one, private, public, and protected. What is the concept of private? What is the concept of public? And what is the concept of protected? I give you the simple example. What is a private? Whenever you create a Facebook account, there is option for the security. Make it private. Private means whenever you will post anything, nobody can will see your data, your post. So this one is the private. But whenever you will make the public, it means that your friends of friends, and each and everybody can see your post, can access your post, can write the comments. So this one is the protect. And the protected is in between the private and the public. So you will give the permission. For example, few person can see your post, few will not see it. So this is belonging to the protected. So we will discuss the private, public, and protected later, one by one, in very detail in this chapter. Now, class declaration examples. How to declare a class? For example, I am going to use a C rectangle class. Watch here. Class is the reserved word, and C rectangle is the name of the class. Opening of class. Now watch here, I use the private. How many members are private? X and Y. There are two integer variable. So these are the private variable. And these two variables can be accessed inside the class, inside the C rectangle class. No, it means that we can use X and Y inside the class, not outside the class. So declaration of data member. So X is the data member, and Y is also data member of type integer. So, but this is the access specifier. Private is the access specifier, and I cannot use X and Y outside the class. Next one is access specifier public. So public, mostly in this kind of programming, in the object oriented programming, data member we make the private mostly, not a compulsory. It's, I say mostly data members are private. It means that variables are private, and the functions, member functions, are the public. So for for the public access specifier, I use a member function. Void set values. Set values is the name of the function, and already we have discussed the different functions in our previous chapter. Int a, int b. It means that they are passing, they will receive the two values from the main function. And int area. So there are two function are used. First one is area function, and another one is the set values function. So this one is the declaration of the class. This is not a complete program. This is not a complete program. This one, it just show you how you can use the class in your general, after the general format. How can you will use a class in your program? The above statement declare a class named C rectangle. If I see this one, so C rectangle is the name of the class. This class contains four members. This class contains four members. How many members are there? Four members. Watch here. First X, second Y. Set value is the member function, third, and area is the fourth member function. X and Y as the data member, and set values and the area is the member function. So four members, two data members of type integer, which one is member X and member Y. with the private access, both having the private access, and two member functions, set values and area. Set values at the area are the two member functions. So total four members we use in this class. After that, definition of object already we have defined. Now this was the just for the creation of the class. Now we will use that object. Just for the revision, objects are the instance of a class. Part of instance means part of a class which holds the data values declared in the class. So those things which we have declared in the class, now I will access these things with the help of objects. In other words, variable type class is called the object. So variable of type class is called the object. It means that now our data type is C rectangle, means name of the class is C rectangle. So I will create the object of the C rectangle. Object is of the great importance in the object oriented programming, because a class cannot be used without object creating its object. How can I say, if I define this one and there is no object, then the useless to create the class. So if there is a class, there should be an object, either one object, either two, it's up to depend on the programming situation. General syntax for the declaring then object: class name of the class. So at the above, when I was explaining the class definition, we use the class name C rectangle. Now C rectangle having three objects, R1 is the object, R2 and R3. So these are the three objects, like in the C++ or C programming we use integer n1, n2 and n3. Example, using class and object. Now this one is the complete program, how to use the classes and objects in our program. Hash include iostream.h, hash include conio.h, class C rectangle. Now I am going to the making the class which name is C rectangle. And same the definitions which we have defined: private int x comma y semicolon public. In the private I define the data members which are the private, and the public are the member function. First member function is void set values int a and int b, from where it will get the values from a and b. So I will in the main function. So this one is the opening of set values. This one is the opening of set values. It means that after receiving a value from the main function, a will receive from the main function, and it will assign the value to the x. X is where? X is over here as a private. I told you x only can be accessed in the within the class definition. So this one is a part of the class, and y will be assigned value b. So this one was the definition of set values. Now void area. See out area of rectangle is x multiplied by y. Now x having the value and y having the value, those values which we assign in the from the main function, they will be assigned first. They will be assigned to a variable, then b variable, and the value of a will be assigned to x data member, and the value of b variable will be assigned to the y data member. So after the multiplication, this one your the last output. Now we will create the this one over here, the end of the class. Watch here, this is the comments end of the class. Now in the main function, because I told you without the main function, the main is the starting function of C or C++ program. So without main function, we cannot make any C or C++ program. So that's why over here, C rectangle R1. C rectangle is the name of the class. Watch here, we give the name of the class over here, C rectangle. So I will use the same name over here. C rectangle is the name of the class, and R1 is the object of the class. Object, whenever I will write this statement, so object will be created automatically. Now set values R1 object R1 dot set values. Where is the set values function? This is the name of the set value. 4 comma 2. It means that 4 will be assigned over here. Set values, this is the name of the function. 4 will be assigned to the a variable, and 2 will be assigned to variable b. Now a having value 4 and b having value 2. So a will be a 4 will be assigned to x and 2 will be assigned to y, and 4 multiplied by 2, so obviously rectangle area of rectangle should be 8, and set values are 1 dot area. Now again with the help of object I will call the another function area. So over here area is there, it will call that function, this object will call that functions, and this process will be completed. So this one is the completed. So output should be look like this: area of rectangle is equal to 8. Area of rectangle is equal to 8. So this one is a simple definition and simple programming example of belongings to the classes and the objects. So definition of the class is the instance. Definition of class is: class are the most important feature of C++ leads to the object oriented programming. Class is a user defined data type. You can say that combination of the similar object makes a class, which shows its own data members and member function in the class. Which things we use? Member function we use, data member we use. So this one is the definition of the class. And what is the definition of the class? Instance of a object is called the instance of a class is known as the object, and objects having the different variable is known in other words, a variable of type class is called object. Inshallah, tomorrow we will discuss this next topic related with the classes and objects. Till take care of yourself. Pray for me, pray for all Muslim. Allah Hafiz.